Hey guys, it's Chloe. So I'm filming on my laptop because I wanted to make sure I had enough time to talk and I wasn't going to be cut out. All right. So I have been thinking for a really long time about making this video, and I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, and I don't want it to be, misconstrued. I want to document this, and I want to put it out there for me, for anybody else who may have this crazy situation happen to them, or maybe for entertainment, but mostly because I want to document this. I'm so happy with it. So this is a story about how I met my biological father for the first time. So I'll give you the backstory. I grew up with my mom and my dad. My dad's name is Kevin. And I had a really good relationship with my Kevin. He was funny, he's wonderful, he's silly, he's adventurous, and he's really cool. Well, we lived in Pennsylvania, and we ended up moving to Arkansas, where my mom's family lives. And everything seemed to be still pretty fine. Everything was okay, normal. Until I went for one of my routine checkups at Children's Hospital here in Arkansas. And you have to check yourself in and everything, and it gives a bunch of information. And I started to check myself in, and I saw that one of the pages said, Kevin, stepfather. And I was so confused, but at the same time, not, if that makes any sense. I looked at my mom and I said, why wouldn't you have this changed, If something were to happen, don't you think that somebody would want to know, like, hey, that's not her stepfather, that's her real father? And my mom was just kind of pushing it off, and she was like, don't worry about it, like, it's really not that big a deal. You would always have what you needed, it would be fine. And I was like, okay, but I always kept that in the back of my mind that was never changed. And it didn't seem to be a big deal to my mom. So I kept that in the back of my head, and somebody is doing something, sorry. And I went on with my life. Well, at one point, me and my mom and my dad were not really meshing very well. We were always arguing, they were always arguing. It was just not a great situation. So my mom and me moved out into an apartment in the same city. We didn't move very far. We just got out of the house and kind of got a break. Well, while we did this, we stayed there for a year. Everything seemed to be okay. And then we moved back in with my dad into our house. And it didn't really get any better. It kind of just stayed the same, and none of us were working well. And it was a combination of all of us. It wasn't just one person. And so my dad left. He moved into the city, into Little Rock. So that was a big deal because we weren't leaving this time, and we kept our house, and it was okay. Well, one night me and my mom were sitting in the garage, just kind of girl talk, and she looked over at me and she just said, don't be mad at me. And I was like, why would I be mad at you? Like, what's going on? And she just said, Kevin is not your dad. He's not your real dad. And I think she was expecting me to freak out and just think she was probably crazy. But I kind of knew. My hints were the Children's Hospital event, where she didn't want to change the stepdad thing. And also because my sisters on my dad's side are this big. They all have really long, gorgeous blonde hair. And I don't. And I always used to comment on that, like, why don't I look like them? Why don't I look like them? But I kept putting it in the back of my head that maybe it's because we had different moms, but it's not. So, I had just turned 15, and I learned that the man that I grew up with for all my life, biologically, was not my dad. So I sat there, I internalized it, and I said, you're gonna have to excuse me. I need to think about this. Like, I need to process this. And she was like, okay. So I left, and I immediately went on Facebook and found this man. I won't give you his last name just because if he sees this, I don't want his information being put out there. I just want to tell my story. His name is Lauren. And I looked him up and I wrote him, and I said, hey, I don't know if you know about me. I don't really know how this is going to work, but hi, like, I didn't really know what to say. I was crying because at that point it felt like everything was a lie, and at that point I knew that everyone around me knew and I didn't, and it really hurt me. Understandably, it was just really hard, and it was really weird. For lack of a better word, it was just really weird. So I wrote him, and he wrote back and said, I was unaware that you didn't know about me. And I was like, okay. So we wrote letters to one another. And in his first letter, he told me about his life and everything and how he was doing. And he told me that he had 2 daughters and a son. And my world came crashing down, because I had these other people that I was unaware about. I had no idea. And the thought that he didn't, raise me or interact with me, and he interacted with these other people, were just like really hard to swallow at the time. Because I didn't know a lot. I didn't know a bunch of the information. Like, I wasn't privy to any of this before that very moment. So I tried to internalize it and be okay with it. So I wrote him back. I wrote a letter back, and he never wrote back. So that hurt really bad. And again, I was really naive and just really in my feelings. And so that Father's Day, I wrote a not very kind post about how, biology doesn't matter. It takes more than DNA to be a dad, which it does. And, I just started thinking, I have my Kevin. I have my dad who I grew up with, and I adore him. I'm proud of him. I love him. And I do, and I am. But it was acting out of unknown and anger. So I went on with my life. I put Lauren in the back of my head and went on with my life. Until I couldn't really deal with it anymore, so I reached back out to him. Times went by, we had kind of talked briefly with one another, and it seemed to be okay. We were okay. My dad still lived in the city and not with us, but I ended up moving out of my mom's house with my boyfriend anyway, so it was okay. Everything was fine. Until one day, about a month before my senior year, I'm sorry about the train, about a month before my senior year was going to start, my dad, my Kevin, moved from Little Rock to Massachusetts. Actually, originally he moved to Pennsylvania, and then to New Jersey, and then to Massachusetts. And again, I thought my world had literally came crashing down. So I took it out on my Kevin, and I was just so upset because I had been so proud of him. I was just really sad, and I didn't really know what was going on in my life. It was sad. So I kind of dropped both of them because I didn't know what to do. I did nothing. So fast forward, all these crazy things have happened, and one night I texted Lauren and I said, "Are you proud to be my dad? Like, are you glad that I'm your child? I'm your daughter?" And he wrote back pretty quickly and said, "Of course I am. I don't really know where this is coming from, but of course I am. I'm very proud, and I love you." And I was like, okay, I'm not mad at this man anymore. I obviously don't know the whole backstory, but I know that this was a mutual decision. That this, as far as, not seeing me, that was a mutual decision. My mom was the one who ended up, getting together with Kevin and thought that not going back and forth between people would have been a better idea. And I don't know if it was. I don't know. Because I didn't experience the other side. So I can just, speak from my side. Well, I kind of ran with it. Well, one day, in May 14th, 2017, my whole world, my best friend, my favoriteest person ever, my papa, he passed away. And I was convinced that at that point, my world would stop spinning, everything would collapse, and that was it. So depressed and overwhelmed, I didn't know what to do, and my mom and dad had more complications, and I felt like there was never going to be a man in my life that ever loved me, that ever actually cared about me. I really felt like that, and I so desperately held on to my papa when all of this was going on that when I didn't have him anymore, it was really odd. So I reached out to Lauren again because I didn't know what to do. So I reached out, and we had been talking for a little while, and I also reached out to one of his daughters, Rachel, who is wonderful, such an amazing woman, just wonderful. And I started talking to them, and I started realizing that there was this other life out there literally just waiting for me, that these people cared about me and wanted to know me. So in the hardest part of my whole life, Lauren asked me if I would be interested in coming to his house for Thanksgiving. And I was hesitant, but I agreed. And he lives in a different state, a few hours away. And so I talked to Drew, and I'm in a relationship with, and I asked him, please go with me. I don't know when I'm going to get this opportunity again. Like, I really want to go. This is the open door that I've been looking for, and I can't just not go, even though I'm dying for this. Like, please go with me. So we did. And that's when we started our journey. 6 hours away to go meet my biological dad. Now, this whole time, I wasn't going to tell my dad, my Kevin, and I ended up telling him, and I said, you know, I'm excited. I don't want you to think I'm trying to betray you or anything. This is weird for all of us, but I want you to know because I love you, and this is crazy. And he just wrote back and said, you know, this is going to be wonderful, and this is that open door that you were looking for, and I'm proud of you, and this is going to be okay. So I said, okay. I have, you know, like the, not approval, but, you know, the thing from my dad, and I'm going to go ahead and do this. So we started our trip. It was a long trip. Drew got sick. It was crazy. And we finally made it there. And he wasn't there, but his wife was, and she greeted me with a big, warm, comforting hug. And took me to see her dad, and we kind of went around where Lauren works, and it was so surreal because it's like when it started, it just, I don't know. So so then the time came for me to meet Lauren, and I was sitting in the car with his wife and Drew, and I just looked over at her and I said, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I'm really scared. I'm really nervous. And she was like, why? It's just, you know, it's just your dad. And I was like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay. And I got out of the car, and Lauren started walking towards us, and we started walking towards him. And I thought I was gonna pass out. I was so excited and so nervous all at the same time. And then he just gave me a huge hug. And I can't even explain the rush of just like, oh my gosh, this is happening. This is happening. And I was so comfortable with them. And it was so fabulous in a time that right when I freaking needed it, this wonderful, wonderful thing happened. I don't even know how to explain it, and it gets better. So I met him, and he was great. She was great. They were wonderful people. And it was great. We went out to dinner that night. Everything was good. We got to hang out with them and just kind of be there, and we stayed the night at their house. And the next day was step 2. I had to meet his daughters, and I was scared out of my mind. Because if meeting him was not enough, now I was going to meet these, you know, these 2 elusive girls. I had talked to Rachel a little bit, but obviously I'd never met her. I'd never seen her in person. I'd never like FaceTimed with her. There was no, it was just, okay, I was so nervous. And so the next morning I woke up and I sat in the bed with Drew and I played cards because I was so nervous to go downstairs that we played cards and pretended we were asleep. So finally I walked downstairs and Lauren was there, and so was Rachel. And I just when I thought that this wasn't going to be crazy enough, I met her. I loved her. She was so sweet and kind and pretty and just like crazy awesome. And she gave me a huge hug, and we all just kind of got into this big group hug, and then we waited for Erica to wake up, and that's the other daughter. And I was scared to meet Erica a little bit more just because I had never talked to her. And when I met her, it took a little bit for her to kind of like warm up to me, I think. But let me tell you, once we warmed up, there was no weirdness between us. There was no nothing. She's gorgeous. She was kind. You know, I really couldn't ask for 2 better, wonderful sisters. And this is no shade to, on my dad's side, my other sisters. I still adore them, but this was such a new experience, and I soaked up every second of it. So if I say so one more time, I'm gonna go crazy. Anyway, I loved them. I loved them. I loved them so much. I loved them so much. They were just wonderful, and we had a dinner that we went to, or not like went to, but it was at our house, at Lauren's house, and I got to meet my Aunt Beth. I got to meet Lauren's dad, so my grandfather. I don't even know how to explain the joy and happiness I have in my heart for these people. Right when I needed it, it was like it just happened. It all fell into place right when it was needed the most. And I couldn't be more grateful to these people. I don't know. Without gushing about it, that happened. And I met my biological dad. I met my biological sisters. I'm in the process of trying to meet his son, my biological brother. I couldn't be happier with how everything went. And if I could have, I would have stayed longer. I didn't feel awkward. I didn't feel like there was any weird, like resentment or anything around me. I've since talked to both of the girls, Erica and Rachel, and just kind of talked a few things out. Also just randomly talked about life and things. And, I don't know specifically how they feel about me, but I know that we clicked, and we were sisters. And I could not be happier. So, because I'm doing this on my laptop and I can't, upload the video, or I don't know how, let me just show you one of the most amazing things that has ever happened to me. This is me and my dad, Lauren. I don't know how well you saw that, but and this is me and my sisters, Erica and Rachel and Lauren. I also don't know how well you can see that. Probably not great. And also me and Lauren and his wife and my Drew. And I couldn't be happier. I couldn't be happier. I think if I was, I would explode. I couldn't be happier. I miss them. I miss all of them. The minute I left, I bawled my eyes out because it was so surreal, and it was like all of a sudden it ended. It was like a whirlwind of events, and then all of a sudden it ended. And I sat in my car before I left their driveway, and I cried and I cried and I cried. But I knew that, first of all, I wasn't going to go back in there and cry, because that wasn't right. I wasn't going to make a scene. I was just upset because there was so much going on. I had just met these people and I had to leave. But we were told that we're welcome any time that we want to come back. And I couldn't be happier. I know that I kind of rambled, and it was a long story because it wasn't until I was 15 that I even knew about this man and his life. I had no idea. Well, I had an idea, but I didn't know. And so it took until I was 15 years old, and then until I was 18 to even meet any of them. I couldn't be happier. This couldn't have came at a better time. This couldn't have went any better. This couldn't have went any better. So if they see this, just know that I'm so thankful for you guys. I'm so happy I know you guys. I'm so happy you're in my life. I wouldn't have wanted anything different, anything to change. I'm appreciative of all of you guys. You know, I know that it was hard on my side, but I can't imagine what it was for you guys to basically have this stranger come into your life. And, you know, I don't know. I don't know how they feel, but I'm thankful for them. I adore them, and I cannot wait to see all of them again soon. So, yeah. Thank you for watching. That was my story about how I met my biological father at the age of 18. And how I just couldn't be happier. I couldn't be happier. I don't know what else to say. So, anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you guys have a great day wherever you are. Hug your mom, hug your dad, hug your family. Just keep those that are important to you close to your heart and close to you. You know, family's so important. Just regardless of any ups and downs that you guys have, I've had my fair share of ups and downs with my family, and I wouldn't change any of them for the world. So just, you know, be kind to people, love people. Yeah. All right. Don't forget to smile. Bye.